A very good afternoon to everyone that's watching. On this Independence Day, we at Sakshi want to look at the future, where every home is a safe space and has a Rakshan that is capable of recognizing, de escalating, and reporting child sexual abuse, where every child is aware of their personal boundaries and can be bold and use their voice. Hello, I am Shrea, your host for today, along with Vanora.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to We the Ructions of India. My name is Vanora, and today we will be joined by a dear friend of mine that I'm extremely proud of, Abhilasha Iyer.
Hi, hello everyone. So happy to be here, especially with a very close friend of mine, Vanora, and of course the organization Sakshi.
I'm just going to introduce Abhilasha. Abhilasha Iyer is an educator, a Bharatanatyam dancer who takes keen interest in mental health, blogging, and matters of mental health. On graduating as an architect from Srinagar College of Architecture, she practiced as a junior architect in Pune. Shreya, would you like to take it?
She found her calling in the field of education when she volunteered with the Apprentice Project, a dance mentor in low income private schools and government schools in Pune. She completed her fellowship with Teach for India, teaching in a low income private school in Bangalore for 2 years. Currently, she is working with Walnut Knowledge Solutions as an educator in the EdTech sector.
So that's a pretty impressive profile. Indian classical singer, Bharatanatyam dancer, architect, and teacher.
Yeah, how do you manage all of it at once?
Well, I think, like they say, just too much on the plate. I think I had to start with some sort of elimination because that usually helps me, in making better choices. So, as for now, I would be a non practicing architect, like just architect by degree. I think Vanora knows.
Yes.
And yes, I would broadly use the term educator, although I'm yet to figure out what exactly my role is to be. I learn dance. I enjoy learning dance, and I'm a hobby singer. So yeah, just that I'm not training formally for in Carnatic music now, although I was trained in childhood. But yeah, I just sing whenever I feel like it.
That's amazing. So how has lockdown been for you?
Honestly, not that bad because my lifestyle did not change much compared to what it was before. So I've been living in Bangalore since my fellowship began, since this was my placement city, and I've been living pretty much alone. So in terms of the emotional support system that one would be used to from friends, family, or even flatmates, that's something that I didn't have earlier because I've been living alone. So I think in terms of lifestyle, it's not been much of a change except the cooking. Oh God, the cooking, that's a lot to do. and working from home. So I think that struck me hard initially. And I am getting tired, I would say now, but can't quite help it because the situation is such that traveling would was not too safe earlier, but it's opening up now. So whenever I get the chance, I am definitely going to run back home for mom's food. So that's the plan.
That's nice. So, Abhilasha, you are an educator and a mental health activist as well. So, in your journey with your own personal mental health, 5 years ago and today, you seem to have a very steep learning curve. So, can you use three words to describe yourself 5 years ago and three words to describe yourself today?
5 years ago, let's trace the timeline. This is 2015. I was still in college. So I would say volatile, um, vulnerable, maybe gullible. I don't know if it can be used interchangeably there. And hardworking. Yeah, I think these three 5 years ago. So, yeah. And yeah, I think those three words is what comes to my mind when I think about myself in 2015. So yes.
And what about the three words to describe yourself today?
Today, let's say resilient, authentic, because I strongly believe in being genuine and saying it like it is. Resilient, authentic, and kind. Yeah, I mean, in my own small ways, I definitely aspire to be empathetic at some point, and I think I have a very long way to go, but I think kindness is a good place to start. So, yeah.
That's lovely.
So how come, like, what changed?
In all these years, okay. So 2015 was a year of extreme high and an extreme low. So I was interning at an architecture firm here in Bangalore called Group Architects as a trainee architect. And that was my first time away from home, 4 months away from home. And, my first taste of freedom and thrill. So those 4 months were really, really ecstatic for me. I made good friends. I learned quite a bit about the city as well. And Bangalore just became like my happy place. After that, I went to Auroville to do like a 2 week course. And again, that was just like a cherry on the top of my whole internship period in Bangalore. And when I came back, I thought the year is going to go really well because we had another 6 months before we submit our thesis and graduate as architects. I said, okay, it's 6 months. I'm going to give this my best and let's just get this done with. But it's not quite how it panned out. And I think I started to feel a lull. It was not like an immediate dip. I began to feel a lull. And I couldn't place a finger on why I was feeling that way because after 4.5 years, I was finally back home because I was living in the hostel all that while. I was finally back home. I had parents, I had mom cooking for me, like really good food. I had the comfort of sleeping on my nice warm bed, and everything seemed okay. But I couldn't like quite pin a cause and say as to why I'm beginning to feel low and then numb. And it was very foreign to me, and mental health was not spoken of much back then because there were no words, to define it. And in my opinion, these words like depression, anxiety, they are now used more as a fad, and I didn't want to use it very casually because these are medical terms and has to be like used responsibly. It felt like depression, but I did not know it was called that. So my day would typically involve like a lot of sleeping, just shutting myself in the room, pretending to work behind the laptop where I would just like zone out. I would almost literally get up and cry every night from like 3 to 4, and pretty much the same thing. Bathing became difficult, brushing my teeth was a task. So these very menial, I mean, these daily tasks became so difficult for me to do. I really thought something was wrong, plus the pressure of this whole thesis that was mounting. So my friends, my juniors, they really helped me got through this one. And I was so relieved once my thesis was over. Because what I did after that was just 2 weeks of shutting myself in the room and crying. Like I said, okay, now I can cry without the burden of my thesis. And also, meanwhile, I thought just to boost myself, I'll join dance class, and that I joined Bharatnatyam after 8 years. So it was quite a challenge for me because your body undergoes a lot of changes. So you don't quite pick up where you leave off at. And I think I had that unrealistic expectation of myself even. Like I wouldn't even remember basic sequence of steps that were being taught to me. So my memory, cognitively also, I began getting affected a lot. I couldn't take decisions. There's this whole brain fog, like they say. It's difficult to make decisions when you are undergoing all of that. And I hope this is not going to be too triggersome for anyone who's watching. So just putting out a disclaimer in case. Like the only thing that genuinely brought me solace was listening to sounds of shattered glass online. I would just randomly go to YouTube and play sounds of like shattering glass because I felt like, okay, someone probably knows what this feels like from within. And of course, I did speak to a very, very close friend of mine. Her name is Aishwarya Soni, and she's the only one who didn't invalidate me and heard me out. And I would get suicidal in thought, but never in action, because I had those thoughts then, but I never did anything to self harm. And the minute my thesis got over, I just one day randomly came out of the room and I told my parents, look, I think I'm depressed and I need to go to Bangalore. they were a little confused, and because it was quite out of the blue for them, I didn't tell anyone at home. And they didn't argue much, because they knew I'd probably, get all temperamental about it. I came to Bangalore again, as I thought it would just be like a happy place and I'd be fixed, and that's that. After I got back from Bangalore again, things began to come back to normal in a very slow pace. So it took about a year for things to come back. And I didn't give it much thought post this entire 2015 October to 2016 Septemberish, because I thought it was a phase. It was a state of mind. It was also what was told to me. You're just going through something and it'll be over. So then again, when this actually began to repeat was, I'd say, June 2018. This was right after my training was over at the Teach for India Institute, uh, which was fantastic for me because I was finally doing something that I genuinely enjoyed, surrounded by such high energy, inspiring people working together for a cause. And I think my 5 weeks of training, although they were very, very exhausting, were a good tired. It was fantastic. I was all set to, okay, now I have my own classroom back in the city. I'm going to, make a very good impression on my kids and going to do a very good job. But I think life had other plans for me. And this whole thing came up again. I again found it difficult to get up in the morning. I didn't want to brush. I didn't want to bathe. I didn't want to go to school. I would cry and cry and cry. I have cried in the staff room, and I would cry in front of my kids. I would get irritated. I got all cranky, and it was all a repeat of the same behavioral patterns that I saw in 2015, and I was just not able to handle the stress of it. And the worst part is this phase was different because my work was going well, but on the mood side, on the emotional side, it was a big time low. So I couldn't add up the two together, because the last time there was like a cognitive breakdown along with the emotional breakdown, so the two seemed to add up. But this time I'm working at it. My work was going fine, but my mood was hitting a low. And a friend of mine did recommend a therapist to me. Her name is Nitya Rao. She runs her own center in Bangalore called Heart It Out, along with other therapists. And yeah, that's the first time I saw her. And I wasn't too consistent in 2018 with my therapy. And she told me that it is a very high pressure environment that you are in. It was a strict school to work in, and it was just making things even worse for me. And she recommended, because my mood was at such a low, she recommended I see a psychiatrist for it. And I did go see a psychiatrist one day. And he was a very stern person, did not like show much of emotion. I just thought he was being a little heartless towards me. I didn't feel too comfortable, crying out there, because he said, okay. And then he just scribbled a prescription and he gave it to me. And these medicines had a bit of lithium. He said, yeah, the only side effect will be rashes and possible weight gain. And I fled the scene, because I said, I am not going to take on more pills that is going to probably, add more kilos to me and then lead to possible body image issues. And I was so lost. I was so lost. I gave my shrink a call. I said, Nitya, I am not going to do this. I am not touching those medicines. And I think the prescription is still somewhere at home, and it probably scare me even now if I'm to see it. But she said, look, there are just two ways of doing this. And I quote her on this, not per se often. So she said there are two ways. There's nothing wrong with medication. There's no stigma attached to it. And I just want to clear that it's when it's needed, you will absolutely have to medicate. But I still am a little reserved about medication for myself. She said either you medicate or you go to therapy. So medication is like, imagine you need to get a Bangalore airport, and your medicines are going to get you there in, like, it's like taking a cab and you're going to get there in 2 hours. Therapy is you choosing to walk it down, and you will take maybe 1 week, you could take 3 months, you could take 4 years, but you are going to get there eventually if you stick to the path, and the choice is yours. And I think at that point, I made the choice more out of the fear and more out of a relief that I don't have to take medicines. And I chose therapy because it involved working on myself. It was tough. It was not easy. And I think one of the first things she told me in the very first session is, okay, starting tomorrow, you have to get up at 5:30 every morning. And I thought she's really, I don't think she's heard me throughout this 1 hour session. What do you mean I get up at 5:30 every morning? And then, slowly we went over the importance of having routines, etc., in place. And the reason that I've been very inconsistent about it is because this is a big, pitfall for me. Is that when I see success, I tend to get complacent soon. So when I actually started getting up at 5:30 in the morning, had a decent sense of routine, I stopped seeing her for a bit. And then again, the whole downfall happened. And I think 2019, that is last year, um, starting June, I began to take my therapy a lot more seriously because I went back to her. I had like a heartbreak, and it was a very, it was a very shattering breakup for me. And she said, "You can't keep doing this. This is not therapy. I mean, this is not how therapy works. You cannot, it's not SOS, it's structured support. It's a lot of ownership from your side. It's a lot of willingness. I can only tell you so much unless you are willing to work." And since then, I think things have changed a lot more. I started putting a lot of things in my morning routine. It's literally my anchor for my day to go well. So I get up ideally on some days, on the days that really go well, I get up at 5:30 in the morning, have my warm glass of lemon honey, do yoga, practice dance, write my journal, have my breakfast, and then I check my phone for any WhatsApp messages or anything that's happening. So this routine alone has taken time to build, but eventually brought about so much peace, so much grounding for me, that I'm a lot more clear when I start my day. And the fact is, the biggest thing I didn't realize was changing is I never wanted to wake up. Like sleeping too much is just my go to on any day that I'm crashing. And when I got into this routine, I look forward to getting up at 5:30 in the morning. So just these very little changes, I think, have led to bigger shifts in my life. So yeah,
So
here is where we are.
so when
Would
you
you
say
say
that,
would you say that because of maybe the pressure of your first job triggered that, or in 2015, your thesis in architecture triggered that, and maybe because of that, everything happened?
Triggers, yes. I'm pretty sure there were a lot of external triggers. Yeah, for me, architecture was a trigger for 5 years, if you tell me, if I can tell you very honestly, because I was in the wrong field. This is not to say that architecture is bad. I do not want to put out that message. I think it's a great place to be. But I was pretty much like a square peg in a round hole for 5 years. And doing something that I did not want to do was killing me from within. But I have this whole commitment trap because I am way too, I way too committed for my own good sometimes. And I said, no, I've started it and I have to get this done with. So yes, I would say architecture in a sense was a trigger for me. But even in a place like where I was in the fellowship, the Teach for India fellowship, I was in my dream city. For me, my dream city and my happy place is always Bangalore. So I'm like, how is it possible that I'm doing things that I like? I am in a place that makes me happy. I wanted this whole, freedom, strong, independent woman life. I'm living all of that, and still I am so broken. So I think that's when it was a red flag for me that there's something within that requires some serious addressing. So yeah, that.
so when you said that 5 years ago you were vulnerable and now you are kind, I think from your journey, what I can figure out from is that you have been kind to yourself as well as others, and that has made a huge difference in however you are right now. And more power to you for coming out and sharing your story, which is so intense, so vulnerable, and I'm sure it must be very, very sensitive and personal to you. So kudos to you for coming through this and coming out and speaking to us about this.
Thank you. Thanks, Shreya. And I would not say, actually, the whole vulnerable part has not changed. I think I was more gullible then, and I continue to remain vulnerable now. And one of my biggest inspirations for vulnerability of being a sign of strength and courage is Brené Brown. If you watched her TED talk on the power of vulnerability, I would highly recommend you watch it. And my friend also recently gifted me a book on her, so I'm reading about it. And it's so I think this society has a notion of those who express more tend to be weak. Those who show their pain to the world are crying for attention. And I think quite the opposite. It takes immense amount of courage for anyone to come out and speak their truth, right? And I have seen lives. I've watched Vanora's live earlier on a topic, right? And this is something that I did not know about her back then. And had it not been uh, for her speaking the truth now, so many people would not have known that this is something that actually affects us till date. And I think I began understanding the value of speaking one's story when I saw so many others doing it, which is very inspiring for me. So yeah, I think vulnerability has not changed. My mother has always been very concerned for me. Beta, you're a little too gullible, and the world is not a very good place, and you can't be this trusting. And I know it comes with a price, but I think I'm willing to pay that price. And I think when it comes to kindness, I have to definitely mention the organization Teach for India that I've worked with has really taught me a lot on this front, especially my kids, right? They're Yeah, I've just learned a lot. It's different when you're in the role of a teacher, because one of our instructors had told us, I remember she told us, you teacher is not about doing something, it's about being something. And when I used to see like my kids coming from that kind of background, just being so uh, having such animosity towards each other, I can't yell at them and ask them to be kind. I have to do it for myself. So maybe it started off as this whole modeling thing of me learning to be kind to tell them, and quite honestly even learning from them. uh, I proudly mentioned this. In fact, even now in the lockdown, one of my students, she organized food packets to be delivered to her community in collaboration with other teachers. And this is something that she said, I can't bear to see them go hungry. So it's always been like this whole two-way learning street. And I think just kids honestly make you kind. So yeah, so that's probably the reason I
So
value it so
there's a
much.
lot of privilege difference that you see when you were working with Teach for India. And would you say that that has changed how you feel about life or your outlook on life?
Definitely. So I think I don't know if we've heard of this term called savior complex, where we feel like, we are their heroes and we are going to change their reality, and, we're going to turn their life around. I don't think that that does come from a place of privilege plus condescension. Whereas if we look at it the other way and, try and bring about some equal ground and saying that this is partnership, that they are letting you in their lives as much as you want to be there. So having that sense of respect definitely is has been eye opening for me on many incidents that I've had. This is always a give and take. We are not there to rescue anyone. We're not doing anybody a favor. I think they also give us as much as we think we are giving them. So they're stakeholders ultimately in a change making process. They have just as much say. So yeah, I would say this whole bubble of savior complex has been bursted for me. So yeah.
So, since you spoke so deeply about your mental health dip in 2015, dealing with depression and also bipolar disorder,
Yeah. Yeah.
could you tell us more about how exactly did you venture on a journey of recovery? In the sense, what are some things that helped you get over this? What helped you come over the stigma of mental health and come out and talk about it and want to be able to do something for yourself?
Right. So again, I'm just going to go back and forth in time. So 2015, something else that I used to do along with listening to Shattering Sounds of Glass is looking up uh, people's stories on the internet. And if anyone has something to say. And it was 2015 October that Deepika Padukone had launched her own Live Life Love foundation, and that got a lot of media attention, and people were quite shocked that an actress of that level would come out in the open. And I think it's commendable for her to even do that, given how public a figure she is and how much this could possibly dent her reputation. So I think just the internet was my go-to place. So yeah, I think that is something that really inspired me, or asked, it didn't inspire me in that moment, but it told me to just hold on. Maybe it's bad right now, but it will get better soon. It's just a matter of time. And I began calling it depression and bipolar eventually only when I started seeing my therapist. And I keep prodding her every now and then. I'm like, tell me what it is now. Tell me what kind of a depression this is, because I need to give it a name. And I like. I mean, it's not for the sake of labels. It's so that I can. It's not an unknown demon to me. When I used to quite relate this to depression being dementors in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when they used to suck the soul of people who are happy. That's exactly how it used to feel. And interestingly, J.K. Rowling also, because she had her own share of depression, she personified it as dementors, and that's exactly how it would feel, that someone's coming and sucking the air, sapping the happiness out of me. And when I actually found got a name for it, that okay, this is depression, and the thing is that I haven't gotten over it. It's chronic in my case. It's pretty much a part of life. With the thing with bipolar as well, is there's no cure to it. You can only know how to cope with it. So yeah, the inspiration has and will always be like my therapist. I give her a lot of credit, and she's really one of my major support systems. So yeah, she's someone who just calls out my bullshit. She's not going to mollycoddle me. She'll appreciate and acknowledge when I've made the effort. She'll equally call out when I've faltered. So I like that sense of balance. And also just being curious, Instagram is such a nice place when it comes to mental health now. There are so many therapists out there, the real therapists I'm talking about. So yeah, it's very nice when you see people sharing their stories. So I think I draw inspiration from stories. Yeah.
So, Abu, you talk a lot about self love on Instagram, as I've seen. Uh, can you tell us about what self care means to you?
To me, self care is self love. I mean, I would not really stand in front of the mirror blowing kisses, going all Karina Kapoor to like मैं अपनी favorite हूँ or all that. I, I can't. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, a little bit of makeup and a little bit of pampering would hurt no one, and it's nice. But I think self care is delayed gratification. You're in it for the long haul. It's yes, bubble baths, all of that. A random shopping spree, a nice dessert order from Swiggy is great. It'll soothe you. That is, I think, something that will soothe you. But self care is getting up. For me, self care, now I have to add that to my self care plan, is like turning off the damn phone at 11 every night so that I get good hours of sleep, because sleep is essential to function properly. Self care is, like Nitya said, getting up at 5:30 every day, even if the heavens break loose, because you know your day is going to start on a good note. Self care is making yourself a meal, even if you don't like cooking, because healthy food must go in your body and you deserve that kind of nutrition. So I think it, more often than not, is very non glam. It's making those decisions that are good for you versus what feels good in the moment. So, because I have sort of reaped the benefits of some of these habits, in the long run, I want to inculcate more of these going forward. So I think self love is great. Let me just put it out there. I don't quite understand the concept of it. I would translate it to care in action. So that's what self love is for me.
So, when you say that you finally started taking therapy and you appreciate therapy so much, the need for it, the importance of it, and when you recognized what you have, as you said, it's bipolar disorder and depression, how does it affect your daily life, and what are some healthy coping mechanisms that you use which could help the others?
Right. So first is making peace with the fact that my depression and bipolar is here to stay till the day I pass, because I'm not going to fight it. I don't want to demonize it. Neither do I want to befriend it to a point where my body becomes a host for it. It's just a tenant that is here to stay temporarily. So I think just changing that perspective makes it easier for me, gives me more power rather than giving it more power over me. So that is something that I've come to accept. Another thing is that healing is not linear, it's very messy. You are going to keep crashing. You only have to, get up and, again do the same things that got you on the right path. So it does, how does it affect? There are days I still have bad days. I still do not want to wake up on some days. And when I do yield into those choices, it comes at a very heavy price. Like I'm generally having like a very bad week if I give in to those moments of weakness. So yeah, it does affect my life, but I do not want it to have much power on me. So in order to cope with it, something that really helps me is writing. And my depression story has been documented more strongly on like my Instagram than it has in my journal. I'm saying sorry to my diary now because I should be telling that more. So yeah, writing really helps me. It is so cathartic. Like I just let everything out when I write. And I listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts for perspective. It's really nice. So there's one podcast called Not Overthinking, and that's where I learned this, that you can't wait around for inspiration. Sometimes action brings you inspiration. You can't be inspired to act, but your action itself would probably bring inspiration. Something that's very therapeutic for me is washing vessels. The lockdown has made it like a lot more easier to access, keep going to the sink, and doing these things, these daily mundane chores that bring in a sense of achievement and calmness to me. So yeah, just getting things done, building a sense of achievement, and again just calling a spade with myself, saying okay, this is the kind of self-sabotaging behavior you have engaged in, and if you do not want to face this in the future, please do not repeat it. So yeah, that coping, and again going back to my same routine of yoga, dance, singing, writing, therapy is pretty much it.
So sometimes when people go to tell their family or their friends that they have depression, a lot of the times people don't react very nicely. I would say they'll maybe say something like "Stay positive, it's gonna be okay." So, what do you think is a positive way to uh, a positive approach to take when someone tells you they have depression?
Right. So this is something maybe a hard pill to swallow, but not everyone is going to understand your story. And especially when you expect your closest friends or your family to empathize with you, their intent, their heart is in the right place, but they're not saying things that would address the problem. I have definitely heard a lot of microaggressions. I keep on hearing it till date. You're too sensitive. You're doing, stop being such a drama queen. Stop being so emotional. Be positive. Toxic positivity. I hate it. So many of these things, right? Because it's very, in short, it's very invalidating. You are telling someone that their pain does not exist. And I absolutely hate it when it is compared to be grateful somebody else has it worse. I do not want to be thankful when someone else is having it worse. And when we say something like that, we are forgetting the fact that everyone's threshold of pain is different. So what could hurt me may not hurt someone else, and vice versa. So you have to like address that person's issues in their own context. Yes, I'm very sorry that someone else is going through their own thing, but I don't think it's fair to me if my pain is going to be trivialized. So I mean, enough of the naysayers. Coming to what would actually help is listening, honestly just listening, because I'm borrowing from my experience of what helped me even get by, come through alive in one piece in that phase, right? Is when friends or anybody just listens in a non-judgmental way, and asking them if they want to hear anything as an advice or they just want to be spoken to. So that making them feel that they're not alone, because it's a very isolating feeling. It can make you feel like you're the only one dealing with this, and this whole why me crushes you. But yeah, I think listening, active listening, not, yeah, go on. No, I don't think that is very, that we tend to do that as a generation also quite often. So, active listening, not validating, no unsolicited advice unless it's asked for. Um, and yeah, if they need help, I think also checking in, right? And this is something that might not go down too well with most people or whatever it is. But when uh, Sushant Singh Rajput's case came about, and there was like a celebrity suicide, just like how the media sensationalized it, there was such an usurp on social media of be kind with those little flower emojis that we all tend to use. I think if we're not going to back up our words with actions of being kind, of actually checking in on someone, then I don't think there's any point even preaching it. So if you really want to be kind, you can just, check in on your friend, and don't wait for something drastic to happen to check in on someone. Just ask them how they're doing, even like on a random Tuesday morning. So yeah, I would just say, like, if you know they're going through something, why would you not ask them, especially if they're a close friend? So yeah, just listening is something that is a great form of support, is what I've received, and I would want to provide that to someone. Yeah.
So, since you spoke so much about gaslighting and the stigma attached to mental health, how do you think youth, this generation of people, can make a change? How do you think, what are a few steps that you would recommend for the youth to speak up more about mental health and spread awareness and make it a thing as important as physical health?
Right. So I think we've seen a lot of positive change come about with respect to mental health. It's gotten destigmatized, in my opinion, to a great extent for a population of people. But yeah, I think, it can get really bogging down when you hear things like, "Hey, you know what? Just get over it, man. It's a phase of your life. It's a state of mind." But not being cynical about it, not I mean, believing that your pain is real, not invalidating your own emotions. So, and expressing is something that helps me. So, either you paint, or you draw, or you cook, or you write, or you sing, dance, whatever it is, just like letting it out of your system, finding a proper channel for your emotions. There's nothing wrong with being angry, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being sad. It's about how you're releasing it for your own good. So yeah, I would say, not, don't get cynical, believe that what you're going through is real, find your own support system. It's very difficult to get by without any support. So yes, I think it's a long war. Yeah, so I think everyone has to stay on their path and find inspirations to stay on it, find support that will encourage them. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you have had such a great journey, such an inspiring story, and we are really grateful that you could come on our platform on this special day and share it with so many people. It takes a lot of courage to speak up about things like this. So, as I said earlier, and saying it again, more power to you, Abhilasha.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thank
for
you for
being
being
so
so
real.
authentic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was great speaking to a lot of people. Great speaking to my friend Vanora and you, Shrea. It's been wonderful. Thanks.
Also, Abhilasha, I am pretty sure that your insights and sharings will go a long way in inspiring our young Rakshans when they look at their own lives and try and make a meaning of their experiences and strive for true independence on that note. And I would also like to tell you a little bit about Sakshi, which through the Rakshan project is in the process of engaging with 40 lakh youth in our country to stop child sexual abuse. And we have a very, very simple maxim: ना करेंगे ना करने देंगे, हो रहा है तो रोक के रहेंगे और अगर हुआ है तो बोल के रहेंगे.
And I'd also like to share about Sakshi's campaign, Make Home a Safe Space. We have a keto campaign going on. Please visit and encourage others to create a Rakshan in each home.
That's lovely. Great to hear about the impact you're having, and more power to all of you as well.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Abhilasha, I would also like to invite you and all our other viewers to our Preview Sunday webinar, which happens every Sunday, which is for anyone who wants to join in the movement against child sexual abuse and become a Rakshan. And fam- my final question to you would be: would you identify yourself as a Rakshan?
Yes, a Rakshan for like a cause, Rakshan for mental health for sure. But I would definitely want to know more about this cause by reading up on your website and being a part of the webinar. So, yes,
Thank you. And
thank
I'd
you.
also like to thank Ritu Rastogi and Supritin Sen from R2, a US-based entertainment company, for supporting this live, and also Fire Events for their support.
Thank you so much
Thank
and
you.
have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you.
That was a very insightful conversation with Abhilasha. And once again, thank you everyone for watching.